Hello and welcome to creatingforgrace.com. Today we're going to create this card, and it uses the Mediterranean Moments background, just this one, and it also uses the beautiful used stamp set. And for that we chose this girl here, and I will show you exactly what we did. I always tell people to make their envelopes pretty, so I chose to do this in crumb cake, and then Life Looks Beautiful on You in red on the envelope. Just gives it that extra bit of wow. So super easy to do. I'm going to set this aside. First I'll show you, I took some of the red little heart paper from the Designer Series paper stack, Sending Love. This is in the 2017 Occasions catalog. It has a ton of red paper patterns in here. It goes along with the Sending Love Notes stamp set and dies and whatnot, but I thought it would make a really pretty dress and kind of stand out. The other thing I did to save space was I took a little sticky note and I put it aside, and so when I inked up my girl and to save Designer Series paper, I knew I'd be going off the edge, so that just saves that. We can set that aside, won't need it anymore. So this is probably the hardest part of the card, which isn't difficult at all. I'm going to really briefly and quickly cut that out. And then we're going to take our paper snips and we are going to go right along where that stamped images. So I stamped directly onto the Designer Series paper. Make cutting this incredibly easy. You want to keep that black border. So there's the top to the umbrella. And then the only thing that we're going to cut out on this one is her dress. We're leaving her hair, and everything else is separate. The only thing that we are cutting out really is just the umbrella and the dress. And you will see why when we get to that point. And I do keep some of the ruffly parts in there for movement on that, because it is, you don't want it to look like it was just stuck on the page. There's really a lot of flow. It's wonderful as a watercolor, which is really beautiful, and I like to color. And of course, you know, now we have the new watercolor pencils back, which is amazing. So there's the dress and the umbrella. And then I'm going to take, I've already done the layers for the card. I have not attached this layer yet because we're going to do some sponging on that. So I'm going to set those aside. And then I chose to stamp the background using the Smoky Slate. And the reason I did that is because there was a lot of brick. You could also do it in soft suede, probably even crumb cake. It may be a little bit too light, but this is what I chose to do. So I'm going to turn that sideways, and I'm just going to center my image all the way around, just kind of eyeballing everything. And just like that. So I'm not going to use the gray anymore. I'm going to set that aside. And our building. So we're really left with like this really bland color palette that's here. And I only chose 2 colors because I wanted to make this something that was easily reproducible and not intimidating at all. So I chose soft suede, and I also chose old olive as my colors. And then I have my Stampin' sponges. I cut them into I think I do 6 or 8s. They come in a round. And then I will often take a piece of cardstock and staple it on the top, so I know kind of what color that's originally went to. I always like to do a little test off the paper first to make sure that you don't get those real strong stamped lines. You can always add more ink I found you cannot take it away. So all I'm doing is wherever there's green, I'm adding a little touch of that right now. I'm going to go back and we're going to do some of the browns, but not a lot. We can always go back and add more. We're just adding a little bit of depth to our scene for right now. So you can decide where the best place is to place your girl when you're ready to do that. And I chose to use the Memento ink. We're going to ink her up all the way. It is black, so it's going to stand out. And I also chose that for another reason, and we'll see why in just a minute. But if we place her just about there, we have the parts to the dress we had right here, and I'm just simply going to add a little bit of snail adhesive. The designer series paper is going to attach very easily in there, and you will see that pop of color. So awesome. And there is our umbrella for that pop of color. I took a Stampin' marker here because you can see, unless you do some masking, and like I said, I wanted to keep this simple, I chose to take the marker and color in some stockings for her, just like that, and then I just added a few wisps into her hair, just like that. Then you can go back and you've got your sponges here. Now that your girl is where you want her to be, we're going to add some of the browns on the ground and up here. And then we're going to go back and we're going to darken just a few of the greens to really make those pop out. The only word that I chose as a sentiment in this is celebrate. Let's see if I can get this placed on here correctly. There is the sentiment. And then I took just some simple, this is part of the 2-pack of paper. It comes as white and red, and it's part of that Sending Love in the Occasions catalog right now. And then I also took some of the lace trim in Very Vanilla. And I'll show you what I did. I actually ran part of it through one of the openings so that when you folded it over and I knew we were going to staple it, I wanted the red to show on top of the vanilla both directions. And so I simply layered it right at the top, and I took our Stampin' Up! Handheld stapler and stapled that down. And then we want to give a pretty end to our ribbon here. So I'm going to cut just like that. One. We have our base here. Like I said, I've already put it together. So with the snail adhesive, if you're running even pressure and then you give it that quick little flick, it stops it from coming out and you don't end up with any of those weird little strings that can hang off of the end of your adhesive. And then I have my bone folder here to give the edge some nice crispness. And that is it. So we've just done some browns and greens in the background and popped it up with some of the red pattern paper. You can use any of the patterns that are in there. But just like that, and life looks beautiful on you. For all of the measurements, dimensions, and items that I used, you can find them on my blog, creatingforgrace.com. Thanks so much, and happy creating.